Okay. Welcome everyone to this session. I'm sorry something went wrong with the LinkedIn Live part of it, so let me start all over again from here. So the purpose of the session today is a lot of people always ask me, how do they make a career in blockchain technology? What kind of background do you need? What kind of knowledge and skill set is required? So in this session, I'm going to explain that to you, and I'm also going to talk about the blockchain ADDS course, why I've designed it, and what our real objectives are, and how we hope you can benefit from it. Now, this course is called ADDS because we're going to talk about four essential elements, which is architecture, design, development, and security. And the logic behind the course is that you should be able to start with virtually no background and then be able to practically develop an architecture for a blockchain, design the entire blockchain network, develop it, and secure it. The course is divided into 8 modules. We start with the mathematics basics, so the math that applies to blockchain. We then go on to the Bitcoin white paper. I'll explain each of these a little more in detail. We then look at the practical blockchain, public blockchains, blockchain APIs, tokenization and wrapped assets, blockchain security, and preparing for a career in blockchain. The most important part, there is no fee here. None of us are in the business of education. We are professionals in blockchain who want to create a large ecosystem of other professionals. Of course, after the course is over, if you feel like sending over some crypto, you're most welcome. But otherwise, this is not a conventional course that has a course fee. It's divided into 24 hours of interactive video sessions and practicals, 2 hours every Saturday and Sunday, starting on the 6th of November. Of course, that's also my birthday, so please feel free to send over some cheesecake for me. At the end of the course, there is going to be an assignment, and this is going to be quite strictly graded because it's going to be an extremely practical assignment where each of you will set up your own blockchain ecosystem as per the use case provided to you. That ecosystem will comprise multiple nodes, a blockchain explorer, and integration of external and internal APIs. It is only once you are able to do this that you actually become a practicing blockchain professional. And of course, at the end of it, you get a digitally verifiable certificate of completion. Any questions so far?
No.
A quick yes, no would help.
No questions.
Okay. Now to apply for the course, I've shared the link on LinkedIn and other social media. You need to give me your full name, your email address, the country you call home, and then 2 very important questions. I basically will be selecting people based on the answer to this question about what are your expectations from the course. If I feel that those expectations can be completed in this course, then you are a perfect fit. I'm not doing any kind of discrimination here. I just want our expectations to align. So for example, if you say that you want to learn Solidity programming, then this is not the course for you. So it doesn't make sense for you to waste your time pursuing this. So that's the only reason I'm asking you this question. And to help me align the course and to set the pace, I need to know your academic and professional backgrounds, but I do not use that to restrict your entry to the course. And even if you don't get selected for it, all the videos will be available to you. It's just that you may not be part of the live sessions or you may not be able to do the assignment, but everybody will be able to access the videos. I hope that's simple. Any questions on that?
No.
Quick yes. Okay, perfect. Now let's go a little deep dive into the syllabus. So we start with the math basics. Now cryptography, which is ultimately what blockchain is a small part of, is all about mathematics. So this session is going to cover the mathematics behind blockchain and crypto, especially the RSA algorithm, the Raives-Shamir-Edelman algorithm. Then we will go on to ECDSA, which is very popular in the blockchains today, which is the elliptical curve digital signature algorithm. And finally, the hash function SHA-256. So here we will look at the mathematics behind these and what is actually the mathematical algorithm which makes these so strong. Then we go into the Bitcoin white paper. Now, if blockchain was a religion, Bitcoin would be the Bible. Because blockchain as a concept started after the Bitcoin white paper, it is essential for all of us to understand. Now, many of you may have already looked at the white paper, but we are going to go into each and every section in detail, especially with a special focus on the proof of work, Merkle trees, block creation, and payments. These would be the aspects of the white paper that we would practically look at. Any questions? Yes, no, all clear?
All
No,
clear.
sir.
All
No
clear.
questions.
Awesome. Then we go into the third section, which is practical blockchain. Now, for this, we are going to use Hi-Fi blockchain, which is one of the projects I'm working on. Hi-Fi in itself runs on something called the multi-chain framework. Now, first, let me explain why I have chosen this framework. I am a big fan of Bitcoin because I realize that is the world's, of course, first and absolute truest blockchain. So let's try to get as close to Bitcoin when we are learning about blockchain. Now, multi-chain is primarily based on Bitcoin Core, which is the reference clients for the Bitcoin network. So whether we talk about Bitcoin's network protocol, transaction format, we talk about the block format, output scripts, as well as runtime parameters and JSON RPC APIs. All of this is based on Bitcoin Core. And that's what multi-chain really does. It just makes it easier for us to set this up and enables us to run a permissioned blockchain. Because I'm not really going to waste too much time on permissionless. I'm going to actually delve more into federated and hybrid blockchains because that is the direction in which the world is now moving. Any questions? Okay.
Moody.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in these sessions, each of you will set up your own cloud servers. I would strongly recommend you use something like DigitalOcean, but you're free to use IBM, Amazon, AWS, Azure, any of the cloud services, or you could even do it on your own laptop. If you have a Mac also, it works fine. You have a Windows laptop, Linux laptop, it works fine. Your choice. But what we are going to do is, first step, we are going to create a blockchain. Second step, each of us are going to set up a node and connect to this blockchain. Then we are going to study what are the two primary kinds of parameters. The blockchain parameters that you cannot change in future and the runtime parameters which you can change even once the blockchain is up and running. Fifth, we will set up a consensual governance model for federated and hybrid blockchains. In a permissionless blockchain, there is no need for a governance model, but we are going to look at it from a federated and hybrid point of view. Then we go on to asset issuance and reissuance. Obviously, smart assets are the most essential use cases of blockchains. We're going to see how to issue them. And while we issue, we can always set a parameter. Can more units of the asset be issued in future or not? So in other words, is it mintable in future or not? So we'll take both kinds of assets. Another thing, when I talk about assets here, it could cover ERC20 type of assets as well as NFTs. It doesn't really make any difference to the blockchain, and we will see what are the different kinds of fields that we can set up. So here, we are not going to restrict ourselves to ERCs. We are going to try to do blockchain assets which have an infinite number of possibilities. Whether we are talking about tokenizing an asset, an NFT, or we're talking about a cryptocurrency, or we're talking about stable coins, all of them would fit into what we are going to discuss here. Then we would do something very critical, which is called swapping of assets. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about services like Uniswap and PancakeSwap. They allow you to swap assets without going to a centralized exchange. So they can also be called as a decentralized exchange. One very important aspect is it supports something called delivery versus payment or an atomic exchange, which means let's say that we are doing a one-to-one swap. I'm going to give you some asset in return for which you're going to give me another asset. Now, we don't need to know each other. We don't need to trust each other. The moment we create this swap, what the blockchain does is locks the assets in my account and locks them in your account. So once the transaction begins, you and I cannot back out of it. It then does the transfer and then unlocks the assets, which is why nobody can rip you off on Uniswap. They cannot take your token and run away because a swap is created there. And only when you agree to the swap and you connect your wallet to it, it's only then that your transaction actually goes through. So we are going to see this practically. How does this really happen? What kind of code is generated and how does the swap actually complete itself? So one is we will do a simple one-to-one swap, and then we will do a more complex swap where there will be 3 or more entities involved and multiple assets can get swapped in one transaction. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. The next thing we move on to is external key management. So we have a concept in blockchains where we can have custodial addresses and non-custodial. In a custodial address, somebody else controls your private key and they can sign on your behalf. But that's obviously not very practical for many use cases. So then you could have a situation where you control your own private keys. In that scenario, we call those also as external key management, where your keys are off the chain. So we'll go deeper into that. We'll also look at multi-signatures where more than one person controls a particular private key. And only when those people sign it does a transaction go through. Most of the hacks that we hear about today are either because they did not set up a multi-signature address or it was not properly set up. So this is another very, very essential part. Then, of course, we will look at building more complex and raw transactions. We will look at how do we optimize the performance of our blockchain. So a lot of you may be hearing about Ethereum moving on to sharding. What does that really mean? What is clustering and how would it help us make a more efficient blockchain? That's the kind of stuff we'll cover. We'll look at how do we upgrade the nodes and the blockchain. So you may have heard of words like soft forks and hard forks. So we're going to see what that really means and how do people actually upgrade nodes and blockchain. Then we are going to see how do we back up and restore a node. So suppose something goes wrong and you have a failure and the node goes offline, maybe because there's a hardware failure. So how would you back it up? How would you restore it? Then we look at cold nodes and wallets. So wallets is a concept I'm sure all of you have heard about. Cold nodes usually is something many people don't know about. So you could actually set up a node, say on a laptop, which is disconnected from the internet. And whenever you want to create a transaction, you would go to that laptop, generate a signed transaction, come back to a server connected to the internet and broadcast your transaction. So that would probably be the absolute safest way of doing large volume transactions where it's a huge amount of money. So we'll go deeper into how that actually works. Then we'll see how to set up a simple web interface with API integration. So as many of you may be knowing, you don't have to know the core programming for a blockchain. As a developer, you could use any programming language in the world and then integrate APIs for your favorite blockchain. So we'll see the basics of how that works. And finally, we'll see how we can set up a blockchain explorer. Any questions so far? Is it all clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Then we go on to module 4, which is public blockchains. Here I have identified 9 blockchains, but to be very honest, if by the time the course begins, we feel that there is another blockchain which has gained more prominence, we can always add that. That's not a problem. As of right now, these are my top 9 favorite blockchains. That's why we included them. We alphabetically, it's Algorand, Binance. Sorry, it's not Binance Coin. It's Binance Smart Chain. I'll change that. Cardano, Ethereum, Flow, Polkadot, Solana, Stellar, and Tron. So we will be doing these 9 public blockchains. Any questions on them?
No, D.
Then we go on to my favorite part of this, which is where we are going to see how to set up different blockchain APIs. Now, I'm very happy to say that Tatum is already become the first knowledge partner for this course. I'll share more details in a couple of days. And they've developed a very, very interesting platform through which you can instantly integrate blockchain APIs of various different blockchains. So although here I'm only showing you 7, but they will, their CTO will be taking this session and their platform supports more than 20 different blockchains. So obviously this list will then increase. But these are the primary ones that are important today, but we'll study how to integrate all of the ones that Tatum supports. Any questions on that? If you don't know what the term API means, don't worry. We will cover that in detail, what API means and then how you actually integrate them. In a very simple way to explain, let's say you made a very basic application, say in Node.js, and now you want to query the Cardano blockchain and get some information from there and show it inside your application. Or you want a user of your application to do some transactions on Cardano without leaving your application. That is something you would do by integrating the APIs. So from within your app, you will be able to connect to multiple blockchains. This is also called the concept of building a dApp or a distributed app. It's not rocket science. It just seems like that to many people. We'll understand how to set it up on our own. Any questions? Yes,
No.
no? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Then we go into tokenization and wrapped assets. A wrapped asset is a blockchain token which is pegged to or collateralized by some other asset like art, gold, fiat currency, debt instruments, equity shares, trade invoices, real estate. Why do we call this wrapped assets? Because the original asset is put in a wrapper or a digital vault, and now it is made tradable on the blockchain. So it makes it very easy for people to buy and sell it. Classic example of the world's first wrapped asset was the wrapped Bitcoin, where people realized that on the Ethereum network, people wanted to buy and sell Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has its own blockchain. So how do you make this possible? So somebody came out with this idea. I will hold Bitcoin in a particular set of addresses. Against the Bitcoins I hold there on the Bitcoin blockchain, I will issue a wrapped version on Ethereum as an ERC20 token, which corresponds to those Bitcoins. So you can buy Bitcoin on Ethereum without actually buying Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's a very, very interesting concept. It started with that. And then we saw stable coins like USDT, USDC. These are today worth more than $100 billion. And they are ultimately fiat currencies like the US dollar, Singapore dollar, etc., wrapped and put on the blockchain. So we'll see how to actually develop these. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Then we go on to the next one, which is the blockchain security. Here we will look at some of the popular consensus mechanisms. The world's first consensus mechanism was, of course, proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses, which is what Ethereum still uses. We'll study proof of stake, which is where Ethereum is heading. Today, there are more than 80 such consensus mechanisms. We will study the top few. Obviously, it's not practical to do all 80, and I don't even think all 80 are really going to survive in the long run. So we'll pick some of the more important ones. And then we will look at some of the blockchain security frameworks. So whether it is about designing the right parameters, setting up the nodes and securing them, all those concepts, securing your private keys, cold nodes, securing your wallets, all those various frameworks will be studied in this. Any questions? Yes,
No, sir.
no? Okay. And the final module is preparing for a career. So some of the questions I'd like to answer now also. So one is, of course, we will look at the blockchain use cases in the BFSI sector, because that's primarily where blockchain use cases are today, where we talk about the banking, financial services, and insurance sector. Then we will look at the non-financial use cases, which is supply chain, IoT, and identity. Then a very essential topic, in fact, this is probably something we should do right in the beginning, when not to use blockchain. I will be very honest with you. Most of the time when I hear people talking about blockchain use cases, they are talking about use cases where the blockchain should never be applied. Because blockchain is not supposed to be a replacement for conventional databases. In many use cases that I keep hearing about, it is much better to use a shared database or a conventional database, and a blockchain actually makes no sense there. So we are going to study and look at use cases where you should absolutely not use a blockchain, so that as a professional, when anyone approaches you, the first question in your head is, does this use case make sense? If yes, we go to the next step. Otherwise, we straight away say it is not a good use case. So that's what we will cover here. And then finally, I'll talk about the careers here. So there are people, so for example, me, I've been working in the blockchain space since 2015, but I'm not a hardcore Solidity programmer, for example. I'm a blockchain architect. So my career would probably come into this part. So to give you a simple example, when a client approaches me, I first try to understand their use case. If that use case makes sense, then I design the blockchain for them. So there are 30 plus frameworks which are available. I need to identify which of these 30 frameworks is good for their use case. Should they directly connect to the public blockchain, or should we take that framework? For example, even Ethereum, you can download and run your own private blockchain running on Ethereum. So does it make sense for them to connect to the public blockchain, or should we get the framework and set this up privately? Should it be federated or should it be hybrid? How do we design the nodes? What kind of node architecture we need to follow? All that becomes my responsibility. That's what we mean by architecture. As an architect, we do need to understand security, but then there are some people who specialize only in the security aspect. These people would then also go on to know how to audit smart contracts, because usually that's where the security problems begin. Most of the time, it's not the blockchain level where there's a problem, but the contracts were not written properly. Because smart contracts are fairly new, there's not a very strong framework to develop them, and a lot of people make mistakes. So we look into that aspect. Then, of course, there's the designing. Then there are developers. Developers are people who are going to be hardcore, let's say, doing Solidity or any of the other popular languages that are used by different blockchains. And then we'll also try to cover it from a product manager's point of view. How do you actually build a blockchain solution as a product, primarily for dApps? So this is the outline of the course. Questions?
So what is meaning of IoT?
Internet of things. So when we talk about devices which are connected to the internet today, so let's take a simple example of that. Let me just stop the sharing. Yeah. So let's say that there is a consignment of, say, frozen food, which is leaving China and traveling all the way to the US. Now, if for a certain period of time, the temperature inside that container in the ship falls above or below a certain level, the food could get destroyed. So sensors are put there, which will constantly broadcast the temperature and other details of inside the shipping container. And these sensors are called part of the Internet of Things ecosystem of the world. CCTV cameras are also considered part of that. In smart cities, so many devices have today come up, which are all considered part of the IoT. So today, IoTs are also being connected to blockchains. So that's what we mean by that. Hope that answers your question. Yes, no?
So from a career perspective, I'm rightly pursuing my BBA honors degree, which is a purely business degree.
Mm-hmm.
Would be rational enough if I take up blockchain because I feel it very interesting. If I sit for my campus placements, does my blockchain course beat from you or from anywhere else? Would it sound rational enough?
See, I'll be very honest with you. This course is more from the technical aspects of it. So if you are looking at getting into blockchain technology as a career, then it would help you a lot. If you are looking at it only to add some value to your business career, then I wouldn't recommend. This
No,
will
sir,
not
from
be
a
the right.
proper technical perspective itself.
Yeah, this is supposed to make you completely technically ready for it, but
Yeah,
not
that's
from a
what-
business aspect.
All right.
From a business aspect, what I would recommend is you could do, say, on Udemy and other places, you may find a very simple, basic blockchain kind of a course, which just explains all the terms to you. That would help you from a business point of view. But this is
Yeah,
more
no,
from
sir.
a
I asked from a technical perspective itself, developing a blockchain.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what it is meant for.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Rohas, this is Mohan.
Yeah,
Can you
hi.
hear me?
Absolutely. Please tell me.
Yeah. Basically, thank you very much. I would like to attend this training because I'm an experienced into software development. I've taken a sabbatical from work and pursuing masters now.
Okay.
I want to learn fundamentals of blockchain
Sure.
to get into entrepreneurship.
Sure.
So
sure.
will this course suffice?
Absolutely. It will.
I mean,
It is
to start off
perfect for
with.
someone.
Basically, I'm into architecture side.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
Definitely.
you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Most welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, from my side. So I'm a QA person, software test engineer, basically.
Okay.
So would this course will help me, or can I utilize my existing skills if I learn this particular course? And how can I basically would be able to apply this particular skills?
Sure.
Because most of the companies I have seen, like they started working on, say, artificial intelligence, data science, but for blockchain, I have at least I don't know that many of the companies have started working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So how this would be helpful?
Sure, that's a good question. So in fact, testing is one of the topics that I've forgotten to add to this. It just slipped my mind. I'm going to be adding that also, a little element of blockchain testing. So actually today, when we look at blockchain use cases, I'll give you two very simple examples. several years ago, India's DND system, do not disturb system of mobile phones, that is running on a blockchain for the last, I think, 3-4 years. And secondly, in Maharashtra, the COVID vaccine certificates are all running on a blockchain. So many people don't know this, but blockchains have actually gone mainstream in a very big way. It's just that you may not have heard about this, but have a look at somebody who's had both the COVID vaccines, and you will see on their vaccine passport, it is written that this data is available on the blockchain, and they mentioned the name of the blockchain also. So there are many companies around the world working on blockchain and hiring on that. So I think it's a good thing for a tester to also do. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Sir, just a
Yes,
comment.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. So, do you expect people to have certain knowledge of the terms and technology? Because when you were
No.
explaining, we weren't sure of
No,
certain.
I don't. So what will happen is, if you have zero idea of this, you will just have to work a little harder as compared to people who already know about it. But no, I don't expect any kind of a background. So that is the reason I will be sending out a list of recommended study material to start before the course, so that those who are very new can just read up before that. But no, it's designed for everyone.
Sure. I have a follow-up question. I'm at the mid stage of my career, roughly 15 years of experience, mostly in financial industry. Recently, I've developed an interest in blockchain, given the use cases in the financial industry, and targeting certain startups from the product perspective. Though you have answered this question, but we just wanted to double check. From the product perspective, do you think this course would help?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Rohas.
Most welcome.
Rohis, one more question, like what is the duration of this particular course?
Okay. So like I said, in terms of interactive video sessions, there would be 24 hours of sessions. In addition, you will be given reference material and you would do demos and practicals on your own also. That it's a little difficult for me to quantify how many hours that will take you. It will depend a lot on your background and how much time you give to it. But in terms of teaching hours, there would be 24.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
And anyway, this is the first batch, so even we will realize whether 24 hours was sufficient or we need to increase a little bit. But approximately, I'm thinking 24 hours of teaching time.
Hi, Rohas. Avinash this side.
Hi, Avinash.
Yeah, quick question on the course. So where do the assignment fit in? I mean, will it be done at the end of the course or
After the end, yes. So once you're done with those 24 hours of teaching, then you will be all given your assignments, and then we will set up a time for each of you where you will display your assignment, and the teachers will verify whether your assignment is working the way it should work. But that will be after the course is over. That's not part of the 24 hours.
And one more question. So by one more question. By what time we'll get to know that our application is accepted? I mean, whether we are
6th of October. Okay. So even if your application is not accepted, you will have access to all the recorded videos. The only difference is you will not have live access. As soon as the session is done, you can access the videos and you will not be part of assignment. But other than that, material will be available to everyone. And 6th October, we will let you know. And the batch starts on 6th November.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
So what's the batch size?
50. Because
And
I
just
believe it's a little difficult to handle more than 50 people in an online live session. That's why we are capping it at 50.
Sure, sir. And also, do we get some insights onto Hyperledger and its at least the basics on the products of Hyperledger?
I hadn't originally planned that, but yeah, that's a good suggestion. I'll keep that in mind. I'll add that. Definitely, I'll make a note of that.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for that. And coming to my profile, I'm a chartered accountant, company secretary, sir, where I'll be, I mean, already into these sort of RPA trainings and blockchain trainings. I hope this particular session will add more technical stuff to me so that I can answer the queries or get a complete picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would.
Yeah. Only once request from my side. I have just filled the form without knowing this criteria. I mean, just like I just mentioned, the basic requirements that I'm expecting. Maybe if given a chance, I'll definitely try require to re-submit my entry so that I'll be sure that my application.
No problem. You can please fill up the form again. There's absolutely no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, most welcome.
Hi, Ross.
Yeah,
hi, Ross. This Ketan this side.
Hi, Ketan. Tell me.
Yeah. So, Ross, basically, I'm into cybersecurity. I'm looking to look into the application of how to operate and other areas into blockchain, basically. So, will this be able to help me to go through that area, understand the blockchain and how to look into the blockchain from the security point?
Absolutely, absolutely, it would.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome.
Hey, Ross, yeah, this is Akshay at this side.
Okay, please submit.
Yeah, Ross, this is Akshay at this side. So my question is mainly focusing on developer role. So actually, I am from mainframe background, so I have zero knowledge on distributed technology. Even don't know like how HTTP protocol works. So for like blockchain developer, do I need to have a knowledge on web development, because that learning is very big?
No, don't worry about that. You don't need to. And that's the reason that we are covering it from the API point of view. Afterwards, you can go on to integrate into whatever programming language you want to, but you don't need to know that before.
No, not for the course, but for the getting job into blockchain developer.
So now that would depend again. So like I said, when we talk about a developer's role, so today in the market, there are two ways to look at it. So one would be somebody who would actually be building smart contracts, say using Solidity. He would need to know Solidity. On the other hand, there are developers who are integrating blockchain APIs into other solutions. They don't need to know any particular programming language. They need to know how to integrate. So you could do integration using JavaScript, curl, or anything else. So that would depend upon the company that you get into. It would depend upon their requirements. But otherwise, no, you would not need to know programming.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Like there are a lot of people who do network setups. So they would know the networking aspect, but not the development aspect. So it would depend on how you're going ahead.
Hi, Rohas. I'm Raghava.
Yeah, please tell me.
I'm into risk analytics and data science right now. So my thought of taking up this blockchain technologies, can I complement my existing data science work experience with blockchain technology? If yes, how can I? That is the whole idea of
unfortunately, I'm not the right person to answer that, because data science is not an area that I know much about.
Okay.
So I may not be able to answer your question.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Rohas.
Hello, Rohas.
Hi, Tommy.
Yeah, hi, Rohas. The course structure was pretty interesting, and it is definitely knowledgeable, and I'm excited to join the course. Coming to what was my background, I had worked in a software industry as an API developer for like 3 years in Accenture. And then presently I'm pursuing my MBA. I had two questions specifically. One was like, is there anything regarding NFTs in the course? Because there seems a lot of boom right now. Sure. And second is, can I start my own entrepreneurial venture, like set up my own blockchain after attending the course?
Sure. The answer is yes to both your questions. So like I mentioned, when we were talking about the asset issuance and reissuance, assets can be divided into NFTs and FTs. So fungible and non-fungible. Because when we look at it, you'll realize once you start the course, you'll realize NFT is not really anything different. It is just the use case which sounds very different, that when you look at a piece of digital art and then you try to compare that to Bitcoin, you'll say, oh, these are two totally different things. But when you actually go to the blockchain level of it, you'll realize that they're not very different from each other. So you'll realize that it's the same thing, but don't worry, we do cover the NFT aspect also.
And like, what will be the criteria for the selection of application? Because you said they'll be limited.
It is on that question of what are your expectations from the course. So if I feel that what expectations you have are going to be met by us, you'll get it. Because let's say somebody says, I want to become a Solidity developer. That is not something we are covering. So it won't make sense. It's a waste of your time to do that. Yes. So that's the question that I will be looking at. What are your expectations?
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Any other question?
Hello, Rohas.
Hi.
Aman this side.
Tell me, Aman.
Will there be Oracle study on Oracles and like chain link? They are very integrating with many solutions. Like there are many integrations.
Sure. I get that. I'm not sure actually. As of right now, we have not planned, but that's a good suggestion you've made. Let me I've made a note of it. I'll let you know. Maybe we will add that. I'll think about that.
And also another question: will there be hands-on practical sessions or teachers might help after the
Yeah, so it's both. So what's going to happen is first we will show you a demo, but while the demo is going on, you would be expected to do the same thing on your system. So which is why, like I said, you would either use it, set up a blockchain node on your own laptop, or then you are going to use one of the cloud services. But while the teacher is demoing it, you will be doing it practically also. Because otherwise, without that, you won't learn. It is going to be practical.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Okay, so it was great speaking to all of you. I'll post this video also online, and then please feel free to keep sending me your questions. So if you are not already following me on Telegram, please join my Telegram group at Rohas Nagpar, or any of the social platforms where we are connected. You can feel free to post your questions. Please let your friends also know. Fill up the form. 6th October, I'll let you know. And 6th November, the course will be there. Nice speaking to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you.
Bye.